welcome to Tidbits, and this is the first episode of the year! I was going to turn this episode into a countdown for the most anticipated games of 2017, but it turns out that many of my picks that I've chosen are unlikely to see a release this year. But they haven't been ruled out, but it's not likely. So, for now, I'll just show you a brief list of my picks. And now that's over, let's get prepared for seeing more trash this year by looking at the questionable saga between an infamous development studio, which y'all have heard of, especially if you're tuning into my channel, called Digital Homicide, which many of you know has actually committed suicide last year. However, I'm making this a tribute video to them as I've just seen more updates for them regarding the case against Jim Sterling, which they're trying to dismiss. Now, I've been wanting to do an entire Tidbits episode dedicated to them as soon as the dust has been settled, which apparently, as of January 2017, it looks like it's getting ready to do. So sit back and relax as I tell the epic tale of this shit show of a circus that Digital Homicide has been running, because it's a real popcorn earner. Enjoy!
Digital Homicide debuted on Steam in mid-2014 when they released their first MMO game, Forsaken Uprising. However, their presence was pretty much in obscurity based on all the other shit that was on Steam and made through Greenlight. Greenlight, for many of you who don't know, is Valve's attempt to give Steam quality control, but it fails miserably. As a response to the restrictive market of the O's and early 10s, they decided to open the floodgates to everyone, where people can vote on games being submitted for review. And given the number of people who upvoted them, they would put their game onto Steam. However, this system is easily exploitable as you can create many different sock puppet accounts and bots to upvote the game to make it to the threshold of being on Steam. And this has of course turned Steam into a dumping ground of horrible games and very shady developers. The one I'm talking about now is Digital Homicide. And as I said before, their presence with their first game, Forsaken Uprising, was nothing to gawk at, as there are plenty of other shady developers that were littering games on Steam, like this gem called Air Control. You know, remember that substandard flight simulator game in Unity that stole assets and, of course, stole audio from a safety video from Delta Airlines? I'll play an excerpt right here.
Smoking is not allowed on any Delta flight.
You see now? It's no longer available for purchase on Steam, and not because of poor quality, it's because of the copyright infringement. However, other games that are of such poor quality and just borderline unplayable are still allowed to truck on Steam until they either steal unauthorized assets, including audio like Killjoy did, or be hostile to Steam users like Digital Homicide. Which brings me back to them. It wasn't until late 2014 that Digital Homicide actually gained such notoriety. On Halloween Day that year, Digital Homicide released The Slaughtering Ground, a first-person survival horror shoot-'em-up that was borderline unplayable and glitchy as hell, which is it's made up of nothing but a bunch of stolen Unity assets thrown into a pre-made map. And as you can see, there are blood and image effects taken from Google Image Search, included with an obnoxious music track that plays throughout the game that loops and loops and loops and loops. It would just make you want to go deaf after hearing it for like 3 minutes. As you can see, this is gameplay from the Slaughtering Grounds that I played right before it was finally removed along with the rest of Digital Homicide's games, where I am running right through trees and bushes and flying 50 feet in the air after I was smacked by zombies.
Plays atrocious, and now I'm out of ammo. What? I'm flying in the air! And I just walked through a tree, by the way, and a pillar.
A well-known YouTuber that you may have heard of called Jim Sterling had a similar experience, even though it was not nearly as comical. However, his playthrough, which he calls a squirty play, it's since been changed to Jim Present, drew the attention of Digital Homicide re-uploading his video under the name Imminent Uprising, where they actually laid over text over the footage insulting his comments on the game, and then Jim Sterling re-uploaded it again and lashed back. This continued on until Digital Homicide, who was then known as Imminent Uprising, filed a copyright strike. A takedown request, including a copyright strike and a community guideline strikes, is simply a 3 strikes and you're out system, where if a user has stolen content from a major studio, they can issue a takedown request. It's simply used to keep YouTube a very safe place for users and to prevent it from becoming a dumping ground for pirated media. This, however, is a case where it was seemingly abused, simply to shut up a person for saying things they didn't like about their game. It wasn't long until Jim Sterling got his Let's Play of Slaughtering Grounds back. Digital Homicide claimed that the copyright strike that they issued on Jim's video violated fair use because what he said in the video was not fair, completely oblivious on how copyright law works. After Slaughtering Grounds won many worst games of the year, including mine, which was not published, they released a few more equally bad games. The first being Temper Tantrum, which I had the unpleasant experience playing, and nudged a spot on my worst games of 2015. Another one called Medieval Mercs, which is really just a substandard side-scrolling mash 'em up that's easy to die in, and Devil's Share. Later on that year, Jim Sterling had a Skype interview with Digital Homicide, particularly one of the brothers behind it, Robert Romine. In this interview, he claimed to be a 35-year-old man with 3 children. However, I'm highly suspected that they may not be in his custody because of him being such a deadbeat. In this call, Robert was taking offense when he called them critiques and asset flips, which of course, as you can look at the game, it's super easy to tell just by looking on the Unity Asset Store. In fact, this was actually among one of his allegations for simply lying about their good brand, and after a lengthy argument, belittling each other and such like that, Robert even attempted to dox Sterling and, of course, threatened a lawsuit, foreshadowing the events a year later. Robert's elder brother, James, tends to be the more litigious of the dynamic duo that was Digital Homicide, as he sent out threatening letters on telling Jim to stop, while in the meantime, they of course littered more games onto Steam Greenlight under many sock puppet accounts, including ECC Games, which shares the same name as a Polish mobile developer who later filed legal action against the brothers for infringing on their name. Digital Homicide quickly changed it to Every Click Counts. And after stinking up Steam for a second year, 2016 later proved the year of their downfall. In March of that year, Digital Homicide, being represented by James Romine, had filed a lawsuit against Jim Sterling with the Arizona District Court for defamation, assault, libel, and slander. In this lawsuit, they actually complained about Jim Sterling harassment, as well as other Steam users and his YouTube following, by also claiming that they've suffered mental anguish and, of course, had a box of feces sent to their houses. Jim Sterling, of course, was moving for a dismissal, and the court granted it. For the time being, while the suit was going on, Digital Homicide has spammed Steam with not only asset flips and clones of pre-existing games, but reskins of those reskins. The first they littered out there was a Space Invaders clone like Krog Wars, and also several reskins of that game, including Assault on Zarters, Wyatt Derp, Withering Kingdom, Arcane Wars, Sarah to the Rescue, Sinister Spiders, Barnacle Explorer Submarines, Merle Wizard Extraordinaire, Pete's Pumpkin Apocalypse, Mike the Astronaut, Not Mike Rapper, and Daisy Sweet Time Cupcake Manias. And several of these reskins had quote-unquote sequels where all they did was just change the background or had slightly different assets. And some of them didn't even change anything, they just flipped the camera. All these games had the exact same code, the exact same everything, everything just copy and pasted on top of each other. They've also littered Greenlight with several side-scrolling shoot-'em-up clones, including Mini Attack Submarine, Hovering Helideath, and Starship Nova Strike. And of course, dungeon-crawling, side-scrolling beat-em-ups like Reginald's Nightly Duties, Gnarltoot's Revenge, Rumez's Journey, and of course, Assault on Orion 7. They've also been known for submitting and resubmitting other Greenlight items that have failed to pass the first time, including the failed Temper Tantrum 2 sequel and Six Nights at Susie's. And their Greenlight submissions of reskins of other games got so out of hand that Valve actually had to step in and mark them incompatible with Greenlight. However, this would actually be their first step in getting rid of Digital Homicide, as the negative reviews of all their shit games that were piling up on Steam were too much for them to bear. Since their lawsuit against Jim, they decided to do the unspeakable. In September of 2016, shortly after I published my Let's Play of the Slaughtering Grounds to get back at them, they formally filed another lawsuit against 100 anonymous Steam users. Only 11 of the names have been revealed, later filled out by Jane and John Doe's to be filled in later. And since you can't sue anybody unless their names are actually given out to, the court decided to give Digital Homicide a subpoena of the Jane and John Doe's of these users. And so, Digital Homicide tried to subpoena Valve, and Valve responded to the subpoena by kicking them off of Steam, terminating all of their games and Greenlight submissions from the store. None of them can be purchased anymore or voted upon. They were completely eradicated from Steam. And Valve spokesperson and head of marketing for Valve, Doug Lombardi, stated on quote, "Valve has stopped doing business with Digital Homicide for being hostile to Steam users," unquote. After Doug Lombardi issued that statement to the press, Digital Homicide later tried to go after Valve, failing to recognize their own moronic actions of these frivolous cases, and not even realizing that Valve actually has billions of dollars stashed upon to afford lawyers just to whip their asses legally. They still continued on trying to actually get local law enforcement. Yes, I am not even kidding. An Arizona state newspaper stated that local game publishers, Digital Homicide, were trying to actually report the harassment and abuse of the Steam users and Valve to local law enforcement in Arizona, and even tried to go as far to list the FBI to shut down the people that were harassing them and defaming them. These two nutjobs actually tried to get the US government to track down these people and arrest them for talking shit about their shit games and criticizing them that they so rightfully deserve. After this shitstorm had subsided a bit, the court later dismissed the lawsuit against the 100 without prejudice, meaning that Digital Homicide could later file the lawsuit later, but unfortunately, they just don't have the money to do it right now. James and Robert Romine claimed that the name Digital Homicide has been damaged and can no longer operate in business. Very, very slow learners. However, their website, digitalhomicide.ninja, is still up, with actually an advertisement for their once banished games from Steam under the name Loot Toot. This appeared late on in 2016 and is still up there now. However, I don't know if Loot Toot is another one of Digital Homicide's sock puppets, or is another dumping ground for games that failed to make it on Steam, like itch.io and Newgrounds to be exact. As the lawsuit against Jim Sterling is still continuing as of January 2017, which is about to be dismissed soon, they're out of business and cannot hurt anybody anymore. So that was a long and stupefying tale of Digital Homicide, a company that was later destroyed by their own ego. Their story is a lesson. Censoring criticism and trying to file a lawsuit against your critics does not work. If you actually get negative review for any game or movie that you're making, either suck it up and move on, or fix it. And this is Marlo Nama for an episode Tidbits. I'm signing off, and good night.
Thanks for watching. I really hope you liked this video. If you want to check out more from Marlo Nama, please hit the subscribe button below, or go to my website at www.marliomedia.com. And if you really like the content, be sure to support me on Patreon or follow me on Twitch TV. And as always, sign on.